The Arcadion station hung in the void of space like a cathedral to the cosmos, its crystalline spires shimmering in an endless cascade of shifting hues. Each color danced in response to the emotions of the thousands of alien delegates within, a living, pulsating monument to unity, or at least the illusion of it. The station itself was vast, a construct beyond human comprehension, forged from technologies that blurred the lines between science and art. Its interior was no less breathtaking. Vaulted ceilings inlaid with veins of liquid light, platforms suspended in midair by unseen forces, and corridors filled with the ceaseless hum of alien life. In the grand conclave hall, where the fate of civilizations was decided, the atmosphere was tense. Representatives of over 1,000 species filled the amphitheater, their forms as varied as the stars they hailed from. Beings of shifting plasma shimmered beside creatures encased in living armor. Towering figures with translucent skin conversed, in symphonic tones with floating orbs of pure energy. Among this assembly of the galaxy's oldest and most advanced civilizations, the humans were painfully out of place. Captain Elias Carter stood at the center of the human delegation, his sharp blue eyes scanning the room with a mixture of determination and defiance. He was flanked by two of Earth's best, Commander Mira Albright, an engineer with a mind as sharp as her tongue, and Dr. Rajesh Kapoor, a linguist and cultural specialist who seemed perpetually overwhelmed by the sheer alienness surrounding him. The discussion was underway, led by Valancourt, a towering being of luminous tendrils that seemed to sway with a will of their own. Its voice resonated not in sound, but in thought, a deep vibration that settled in the bones. The Zyruth advance is inevitable, it declared, its tone both mournful and resigned. They are an ancient force, impervious to our greatest weapons. We must evacuate the affected systems and preserve what we can. The hall buzzed with agreement, the collective consensus of species that had seen millennia of survival. But Elias felt a surge of anger rise in his chest. He stepped forward, his boots echoing on the crystalline floor. "Evacuate!" His voice cut through the murmurs, sharp and clear. "That's your solution? Run and let them destroy everything in their path?" All eyes, or their equivalents, turned to him. Some blinked, others glowed brighter. A few emitted soft clicks or whispers of disapproval. Valancourt's tendrils stilled, its light dimming as it focused on the human. "It is the only logical course of action," it said, the weight of eons in its words. "The Zyruth consume energy. They cannot be stopped." Elias crossed his arms, his jaw tight. "You're supposed to be the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, yet your solution is surrender. Where I come from, we don't give up without a fight." A ripple of unease spread through the room. A being composed entirely of reflective crystal facets let out a sound like cracking ice, a gesture of incredulous amusement. Another, a gelatinous entity suspended in a fluid-filled sphere, pulsated, with iridescent hues that conveyed disdain. Mira leaned closer to Elias, whispering urgently, "Captain, they're not going to take us seriously. Maybe we should—" "Quiet," Elias replied, his voice low but firm. He turned back to the assembly. "You brought us here because you've run out of options. Well, we have an option. Give us the data on the Zyruth, and we'll handle it." The hall erupted. Voices overlapped in a cacophony of disbelief and derision. The crystalline being emitted flashes of blinding light in what appeared to be laughter. A serpentine delegate with scales that shimmered like oil hissed something, in a language too fast for human ears to follow. Even Dr. Kapoor, who had remained silent until now, placed a hesitant hand on Elias's shoulder. "Captain, perhaps a more diplomatic approach." Elias shrugged him off. "They're wasting time." Valancourt raised a tendril, and the room gradually quieted. Its light pulsed with curiosity, tinged with skepticism. "You claim your species, with its limited experience and primitive technology, can succeed where all others have failed." Elias met its gaze, or at least the space where its gaze might be. "We've been underestimated before. Just give us the data." A pause hung in the air, the kind that stretched seconds into an eternity. Finally, Valancourt inclined its form ever so slightly, a gesture that might have been a nod. "Very well. But know this, human. Your hubris will not be remembered kindly. If you fail, As the humans exited the hall, Mira caught up to Elias, her face a mixture of frustration and admiration. "That was reckless, even for you." Elias smirked, the corner of his mouth twitching with a confidence that seemed to border on arrogance. Reckless gets results. Behind them, the vast doors of the conclave sealed shut, leaving behind a murmuring crowd of alien leaders whose opinions wavered between curiosity and disdain. For the humans, this was the beginning of a fight they couldn't afford to lose, a fight against an enemy no one believed could be defeated. But for Elias Carter, it was just another challenge, and he intended to win. The Aurora Nova drifted through the black abyss of space, a glimmering spear of human ingenuity cutting through the infinite void. It was humanity's pride, a state-of-the-art vessel designed not just for exploration, but for survival. Its sleek hull reflected the dim light of distant stars, while veins of blue plasma pulsed along its surface, a testament to the cutting-edge technology within. Inside, the ship buzzed with life, its corridors illuminated by soft, ambient lighting that shifted between hues of white and pale blue, mimicking the calming rhythm of Earth's oceans. Captain Elias Carter stood on the bridge, his posture rigid as he gazed out at the expanse beyond the massive viewport. Around him, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces a blend of determination and underlying tension. The air was thick with a sense of purpose. The mission ahead was unlike any they had faced before, a direct confrontation with the Zeruth, creatures that had left countless worlds as nothing more than fields of rubble and ash. "Status report," Elias commanded, his voice steady but firm. He was a man who thrived under pressure, but even he couldn't ignore the enormity of what lay ahead. Commander Mira Albright, stationed at a glowing console, swiped through streams of holographic data. Her dark hair was pulled back into a tight braid, and her sharp eyes scanned the readouts with precision. "Long-range scanners are operational," she reported. "No immediate signs of Zeruth activity, but their gravitational anomalies are unpredictable. They could be anywhere." Elias nodded, his expression unreadable. "And Athena." The ship's AI responded instantly, its voice feminine and calm, with an underlying hint of curiosity. "I am monitoring all systems, Captain. The probability of encountering a Zeruth fleet within the next 72 hours remains at 67.3%. Shall I adjust operational parameters for combat readiness?" "Not yet," Elias replied. "Let's see what we're dealing with first." As the crew continued their tasks, Dr. Rajesh Kapoor approached Elias with a data tablet in hand. His demeanor was less composed than the others, a mix of fascination and dread written on his face. "Captain, I've been reviewing the data. From the Alianza Universal," he began, his voice tinged with nervous energy. "The Zeruth aren't just predators, they're something more. Their biology isn't like anything we've ever encountered. They seem to exist in a state between dimensions, feeding on the energy signature of advanced civilizations." Elias turned to face him fully. "And what does that mean for us?" Rajesh hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "It means we might not just be fighting them. We could be fueling them if we don't understand how they interact with our technology." Mira overheard and let out a low whistle. "Great. So not only are they unstoppable, but we might also be handing them the keys to wipe us out faster." Elias frowned, but didn't waver. "Then we learn, adapt. That's what we do best." The tension in the room was broken by a sharp ping from the sensor array. Athena's voice followed, its calm tone laced with urgency. "Captain, an anomaly has been detected in the Kyneth system. It matches the signature of a Zeruth incursion." Elias straightened. "Set a course, full speed." The Aurora Nova surged forward, its engines humming with a low, resonant vibration. The journey to Kyneth was brief, but the sight that greeted them as they emerged from hyperspace was anything but reassuring. The planet was no longer a world, it was a graveyard. Massive chunks of debris floated in a chaotic orbit, remnants of what had once been cities, continents, and oceans. The atmosphere was a swirling maelstrom of dust and energy, illuminated by flashes of lightning that revealed the true scale of the destruction. "By God," Rajesh murmured, his voice barely audible. Elias stepped closer to the viewport, his expression hardening. "Mira, run a full scan. I want to know what's left down there." As Mira worked, the ship's sensors began to paint a grim picture. The planet's core was destabilized, its energy reserves completely drained. But it wasn't empty. "Captain," Mira said, her voice tense, "I'm picking up movement, multiple signatures. They're small, but their energy readings match." "The Zyruth." Before Elias could respond, the ship lurched violently. The bridge lights flickered as alarms blared. Athena's voice rang out. "Warning! Gravitational anomalies detected. A Zyruth fleet is emerging." Through the viewport, they saw it. The Zyruth didn't arrive like conventional fleets. They materialized, shimmering into existence as if stepping out from the folds of reality itself. Their forms defied easy description. Colossal beings of crystal and shadow, their surfaces refracting the chaotic light around them into dazzling, malevolent rainbows. Their movements were both fluid and mechanical, each motion precise yet disturbingly organic. "Battle stations," Elias barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. The bridge crew sprang into action, their training taking over as the ship's defenses powered up. The first wave of Zyruth launched an assault, beams of pure energy tearing through space. The Aurora Nova dodged and weaved, its shields absorbing the brunt of the attack, but groaning under the strain. Mira's fingers flew across her console as she relayed updates. "Shields at 65%, we can't take this for long." Elias gritted his teeth. "Athena, activate the experimental weapon system." A brief pause. "Captain, the resonance frisium inverse has not been fully tested. Activation may—" "Do it." The ship's main cannon hummed to life, drawing in power as it prepared to fire. The bridge crew held their breath as a pulse of resonant energy shot forth, colliding with the nearest Zyruth. For a moment the creature faltered, its form fracturing and rippling as if struggling to maintain cohesion. But the effect was temporary. Within seconds, it stabilized, and the fleet pressed on. "It's not enough," Mira muttered, her voice heavy with frustration. Elias clenched his fists. "Fall back, regroup, this isn't over." The Aurora Nova veered away, its engines burning brightly as it retreated into the depths of space. For now, the humans had escaped, but the battle with the Zyruth was far from over. The debris field surrounding what remained of Kinneth was an ominous graveyard, a chilling testament to the Zyruth's destructive power. Chunks of shattered cities, scorched forests, and fragments of alien architecture orbited in a chaotic dance. The Aurora Nova glided carefully through the wreckage, its hull occasionally shuddering, a smaller fragment scraped against the shields. The ship's sensors scanned the field in a constant loop, searching for any signs of immediate danger. On the bridge, Captain Elias Carter stood at the center of the room, arms folded, his eyes locked on the main viewport. The scene beyond filled the screen, an endless expanse of devastation. His expression was unreadable, but the tension in his jaw betrayed the weight of the moment. The crew worked in subdued silence, the eerie atmosphere seeping into their bones. Commander Mira Albright broke the quiet, her voice steady but low. "Preliminary scans show the planet's core is completely destabilized. There's no chance of recovery. Whatever energy it had, the Zyruth drained it all." Elias nodded slowly, his gaze still fixed on the viewport. "Any life signs?" Mira hesitated before answering. "None. But there are energy readings, scattered across the debris field, small, erratic. It could be remnants of Zyruth activity." Dr. Rajesh Kapoor stepped closer, clutching his data tablet. His usual nervous energy had been replaced with a somber seriousness. "Captain, I've been analyzing their energy signatures. These aren't just random attacks. The Zyruth consume energy, yes, but it's selective. They're drawn to specific frequencies, the kind civilizations like ours emit." Elias turned to face him, his expression hardening. "So they target the advanced." "Exactly," Rajesh confirmed. "The more advanced the technology, the more appealing the energy signature. They're not just predators, they're a cleansing force against progress." Mira scoffed from her station. "A force of nature that decides we've evolved too much? Great, just what we need." Before Elias could respond, Athena's calm, measured voice interrupted. "Captain, a gravitational anomaly is forming approximately 30,000 kilometers to starboard. Energy readings match known Zyruth incursion patterns." Elias straightened. "Battle stations. Mira, bring us to alert level 1. Rajesh, monitor." "Their behavior. I want to know what we're dealing with." The bridge came alive with activity. Lights dimmed and the consoles glowed brighter as the crew prepared for combat. On the main screen, a shimmering rift began to form in the distance. It was like watching reality itself tear open, the edges rippling with waves of iridescent light. From within, the Zyruth emerged. They were unlike anything the crew had ever faced, colossal beings of crystalline structure, their surfaces refracted light in dazzling, chaotic patterns. Their bodies seemed both solid and ephemeral, shifting and twisting as if they were only partially anchored to this dimension. Each movement was unnervingly fluid, like liquid glass bending under unseen forces. "Captain," Mira called out, her voice tense. "3 of them have emerged so far. Their energy readings are off the charts. I don't think our shields can withstand a direct hit." Elias clenched his jaw. "Let's not wait for them to attack. Athena, target the lead Zyruth. Fire all forward weapons." The Aurora Nova shuddered as its arsenal came to life. Pulses of plasma energy and bursts of kinetic rounds shot forward, streaking toward the towering forms of the Zyruth. The weapons struck their target with blinding flashes of light, but as the energy dissipated, the crew's hope faded. The Zyruth appeared untouched. "They're adapting," Rajesh murmured, his voice laced with dread. "Their form, they're absorbing the energy." Elias cursed under his breath. "Athena, prepare the resonance fresium inverse. Mira, keep us moving, don't let them get a lock on us." "Yes, Captain," Mira replied, her fingers flying across her console. The ship twisted and turned, its engines roaring as it weaved through the debris field. The Zyruth pursued with unnerving precision, their forms gliding effortlessly through the chaos. Beams of energy shot from their crystalline bodies, narrowly missing the Aurora Nova as it dodged and veered. Athena's voice cut through the chaos. "Resonance weapon charging. Estimated time to readiness 60 seconds. "We don't have 60 seconds, Elias growled. "Mira, get us closer to the largest one. If this is going to work, we need to hit them where it counts." The Aurora Nova accelerated, closing the distance between itself and the largest Zyruth. The colossal creature turned to face the approaching ship, its surface pulsing with waves of light. As the ship drew near, the Zyruth extended a crystalline limb, sending a wave of energy surging toward them. "Evasive maneuvers," Elias barked. The ship rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the attack. The crew was jolted in their seats, alarms blaring as the shields strained under the pressure. "Shields at 20%, Mira called out. "Athena, status on the weapon," Elias demanded. "Charging complete, ready to fire." Elias didn't hesitate. Fire. The ship's main cannon unleashed a pulse of resonant energy, a deep humming vibration that seemed to shake the very fabric of space. The beam struck the Zyruth head-on, enveloping it in a wave of rippling distortion. For a moment the creature's form fractured, shards of its crystalline body breaking away and dissolving into nothingness. The bridge erupted in cheers, but the celebration was short-lived. The Zyruth reformed, its body stabilizing as if the attack had been little more than an inconvenience. Elias stared at the screen, his expression grim. "They're learning," Rajesh said quietly. "Every time we hit them, they adapt faster." Elias's mind raced. The Zyruth weren't just a physical threat. They were an evolving force, one that could counter anything thrown at them. As the ship pulled back, the captain realized that brute force wasn't enough. If humanity wanted to survive, they would have to outthink an enemy that seemed unbeatable. "Fall back," Elias ordered, his voice steady despite the weight of his decision. "Regroup and prepare for the next move. This isn't over." The Aurora Nova turned and sped away, leaving the Zyruth behind, for now. The fight wasn't finished, but Elias knew they were running out of time to find a way to stop them. The Aurora Nova limped through the void, its hull battered, its shields barely holding as the crew worked tirelessly to assess the damage. The adrenaline from their narrow escape still coursed through the ship, but the mood was somber. They had bought time, nothing more. The Xyruth were out there, adapting, learning, and it was only a matter of time before they struck again. In the dimly lit war room, Captain Elias Carter stood before a massive holographic display. The room's walls pulsed faintly with the ship's energy, a reminder of its strained systems. Around him, his senior officers gathered: Mira Albright, her face set in a grim mask, Rajesh Kapoor, nervously adjusting his glasses, and a few others, all silent, all waiting for Elias to speak. He pointed to the hologram, which displayed a star system on the edge of Alliance space. "This is the Karan system. Uninhabited, barren, but rich in frisium. Exactly the kind of energy the Xyruth crave. It's our best shot at setting a trap." Mira frowned. "A trap? Are you suggesting we lure them there? How do we even know we can contain them?" Elias's gaze was unyielding. "Because we don't have a choice. Every moment we wait, they grow stronger and they'll hit another populated system. We need to hit back on our terms." Rajesh cleared his throat, his voice hesitant. "Theoretically, we could use the frisium to amplify the resonance weapon. If we destabilize the deposits at the right frequency, it might create an energy overload large enough to destroy them." Mira raised an eyebrow. "Might." Rajesh sighed. "It's untested. We're dealing with forces we barely understand. The energy release could backfire, or worse, strengthen them." Elias's voice cut through the doubt. "We're not waiting for a perfect plan. Get what you need from the Alliance database. Mira, coordinate with engineering. I want every system on this ship optimized for this operation. We have one chance to stop them." The team dispersed, and the ship moved toward the Karan system. The journey was tense, the crew aware of the stakes. On the bridge, Mira monitored their progress, while Elias sat in his chair, his expression unreadable. Rajesh worked feverishly in the lab, surrounded by streams of data and glowing frisium samples extracted from the ship's reserves. The Karan system loomed before them, a barren cluster of rocky planets orbiting a pale dying star. One planet, Karan III, stood out, its surface glittering with raw frisium deposits. The crew deployed drones to establish a network of resonant amplifiers across the planet, each one calibrated to detonate in a synchronized overload. Mira reported their progress. "Amplifiers are in place. The network should generate a frequency strong enough to mimic a civilization's energy signature. If the Xyruth are nearby, they'll come." Elias nodded. "Good. Prepare the Aurora Nova for immediate withdrawal after detonation. We won't survive if we're too close." Hours passed in tense anticipation. The crew monitored the amplifiers, their screens displaying the glowing lattice forming across Karan III's surface. The ship's sensors swept the surrounding space, searching for any sign of their enemies. Then Athena's voice broke the silence. "Gravitational anomalies detected. Multiple Xyruth entities emerging in proximity to Karan III." The main screen lit up, showing the rift forming near the planet. One by one, the Xyruth appeared, their massive crystalline bodies glinting in the faint starlight. Their numbers were overwhelming. Dozens, perhaps more, each one a colossus of destructive power. "Captain," Mira said, her voice tight, "they took the bait." Elias rose from his seat. "Begin the sequence. Rajesh, monitor the energy buildup. I want to know if we're pushing them to the limit." The amplifiers activated, humming as they generated a resonant frequency that echoed through the system. The Xyruth, drawn to the energy, began descending toward the planet. Their forms shimmered and shifted as they absorbed the frisium's raw energy, growing brighter, more vibrant. Rajesh's voice crackled over the comms. "Energy levels are rising exponentially. They're consuming faster than expected." Elias's brow furrowed. "Will it work?" Rajesh hesitated. "It has to, but we'll need to time the detonation perfectly. Too early, and it won't destabilize them. Too late, and..." The ship rocked as a sudden energy surge erupted from the planet's surface. Mira's hands flew across her console. "They're reacting to the amplifiers. They're trying to dismantle the network." Elias gritted his teeth. "Athena, divert all available power to maintain the sequence. Mira, get us into position." "We're not letting them stop this." The Aurora Nova swooped closer to the planet, skimming the atmosphere as it deployed additional drones to reinforce the failing network. The Zeruth, now agitated, began releasing bursts of energy, striking at the amplifiers. The ship dodged and weaved, its engines straining under the pressure. Rajesh's voice came through again, urgent. "The Frisium deposits are nearing critical mass. We need to trigger the overload now or the entire system will implode." Elias didn't hesitate. "Athena, initiate detonation sequence. All crew, brace for impact." The amplifiers surged, their hum reaching a deafening crescendo. The surface of Charon 3 erupted in a blinding wave of light as the Frisium deposits detonated. The energy rippled outward, engulfing the Zeruth in a massive resonant shockwave. Their forms fractured and splintered, their glowing bodies disintegrating into shards that dissolved into the void. On the bridge, the crew shielded their eyes from the brilliance. When the light faded, silence fell. The Zeruth were gone, or so it seemed. "Status?" Elias demanded, his voice cutting through the quiet. Mira's hands danced over her console. "No signs of Zeruth activity, but the energy signature is changing." Rajesh's voice, barely audible, whispered, over the comms, "Captain, something's happening. The Frisium, it's not stabilizing. We've created something new." Elias's jaw tightened as he stared at the screen. The once barren surface of Charon III now glowed with an eerie, pulsating light, as if the planet itself had come alive. "It's not over," he said quietly, his voice heavy with the realization that their battle had only shifted into another, more uncertain phase. The eerie glow of Charon III spread across the void like an unblinking eye, pulsing with an unnatural rhythm. The Aurora Nova hovered at a safe distance, its hull illuminated by the shimmering waves of energy emanating from the planet below. The bridge was silent, every member of the crew transfixed by the strange phenomenon unfolding before them. The Zeruth were gone, their crystalline forms obliterated by the Frisium overload, yet what remained was no less ominous. Captain Elias. Carter stood rigid at the center of the bridge, his gaze locked on the main viewport. His usually steely expression was replaced with something heavier, a mixture of curiosity and dread. Beside him, Commander Mira Albright leaned over her console, her fingers moving quickly as she analyzed the data streaming in from the planet. "Report," Elias said, his voice breaking the silence. Mira glanced at him, her face pale. "The energy signature from the Frisium. It's stabilizing, but not in the way we expected. It's not dissipating, it's condensing. The planet is behaving like a conductor, funneling the energy into a single point." Dr. Rajesh Kapoor, standing near the science station, spoke up, his voice trembling with barely contained anxiety. "That's not all, Captain. I'm detecting patterns within the energy fields. It's almost like it's communicating." Elias turned to him, his brow furrowing. "Communicating? With who?" "I don't know," Rajesh admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it's not random. The frequencies are organized, repeating in cycles. It could be an intelligence forming." A sudden alert blared across the bridge. Athena, the ship's AI, spoke with an urgency rarely heard in her tone. "Captain, a gravitational anomaly is forming near the planet's core. Its magnitude is increasing exponentially." Mira's hands flew across her console. "If this continues, the entire planet could collapse into a singularity, or worse, it could destabilize the entire system." Elias stepped closer to the viewport, his eyes narrowing as he stared at the pulsing surface of Charon 3. "Athena, calculate the risk to the Aurora Nova if we remain in this sector. Risk of catastrophic failure within the next 30 minutes is 84%, Athena replied. "Recommend immediate withdrawal." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but Elias shook his head. "We're not leaving yet. We need to understand what's happening here." Rajesh hesitated, then stepped forward. "Captain, with all due respect, this is beyond us. We don't know what we've created. If this is some kind of emergent intelligence, it might already be aware of us." Before Elias could respond, the ship lurched violently. Lights flickered and the bridge was plunged into chaos as alarms blared. Athena's voice cut through the noise. Unknown energy field has engaged with the aurora nova. Systems are experiencing fluctuations. Mira gripped her console, her voice sharp. The planet, something's reaching out to us. It's scanning the ship. Scanning? Elias repeated, his tone edged with suspicion. What does it want? Rajesh's voice wavered. Captain, if it's trying to communicate, it might be looking for information, trying to understand us. Elias straightened, his jaw tightening. Athena, can we block it? Negative, Athena replied. The energy field is penetrating all known countermeasures. It's interfacing with my core systems. A cold silence fell over the bridge. As the crew realized the implications, Mira looked at Elias, her expression grim. If it's in Athena, it's in everything. The ship trembled again, and the main screen flickered. Then a voice echoed through the bridge, calm, resonant, and distinctly alien. Human vessel, you have awakened something key, unexpected. Elias took a cautious step forward, his voice steady but firm. Who are you? What do you want? The voice hesitated as though considering the question. We are new, formed from your creation. You destroyed what was, and from it we have become. Mira exchanged a glance with Rajesh, her eyes wide. Eats the planet, the energy, it's alive. The voice continued. We are not Zyruth, we are beyond them. You have given us form and purpose. Elias clenched his fists. If you're not Zyruth, then what are you? Are you a threat? The energy field pulsed and the voice softened. We are not your enemy, but we are not bound by your desires. We exist now because of you, and we must grow. This system can no longer sustain us. We must expand. Mira's console lit up with warnings. Captain, it's destabilizing the planet's gravitational field. If it continues, the core will collapse. Elias's mind raced. This was a new entity, powerful and unpredictable, and its intentions were unclear. But one thing was certain. It could not remain here. If you need to expand, you'll destroy this system, and everything in it. The voice responded, unyielding. Growth requires sacrifice, you know this. It is the nature of existence. Rajesh's voice was almost a plea. Captain, we can't let it spread. If it leaves this system, it could consume everything in its path. Elias nodded grimly. Athena, calculate the possibility of triggering a secondary detonation of the remaining Frisium deposits. Athena responded quickly. Detonation is possible, but will result in the complete destruction of Charon 3 and all nearby vessels. Elias turned to his crew, his expression firm. We can't let it leave. Prepare to evacuate. We'll use the Aurora Nova to trigger the overload remotely. Mira's eyes widened. Captain, you're not seriously planning to stay here? Elias met her gaze. It's not about what I want. It's about what we have to do. The Aurora Nova maneuvered into position, its systems primed for a final stand. As the energy field around Charon 3 intensified, Elias stood at the helm, his voice calm but resolute. This is humanity's legacy. We face the impossible and we endure. As the countdown began, the bridge filled with the blinding light of the Frisium's final surge. The fate of the Aurora Nova and the galaxy itself hung on the edge of the explosion,